So now that we went over releasing that tissue in some form or another. From there, we went to mobilize the right joints. And now we're gonna activate, right? So the activation, obviously we wanna activate glute external rotator. So I'm gonna take you through a couple of drills. Everything that you've seen, like I said, it doesn't mean you're doing everything all the time. Now, if I was struggling with low back pain and today I just had 20 minutes, to just work, I'd do all these drills, right? Like in a sequence, and I'd feel a ton better. Now, if you're doing it before a training session, maybe you pick 3 from each part, like 2 to 3 from each one of those segments and hit those. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of roll through this, and there is no right or wrong necessarily to the sequence of this, although I'll go through how I would do it with our clients or even for myself. So one of the first, and something that you've probably seen as far as activation goes, is the glute bridge. Now, I personally like just the basic glute bridge just fine, but I'm gonna show you another variation that most people actually don't really do, but I really like it. It really gets people to activate everything and teaches them how to control their spine also. So what we're gonna do is there's this regular glute bridge first, okay? So you go about a foot and a half. Everybody's got a little different limb lengths here, but you don't wanna go too far out with your feet, right? So to turn on the hamstrings, but not the glutes. So you want about a foot and a half from your butt. I like to drive the elbows down so I get some ab engagement here at the bottom, or palms down like this, or even turned out. And from here, I'm gonna push through and exhale. And now I'm just gonna squeeze my glutes, keep pushing my hands into the ground, right? I'm gonna hold for a specific amount of time, 10, 20, maybe 30 seconds. I like to say crack a walnut with your butt cheeks, right? You could also attach a band around here that's gonna give you some more pull, make you resist, get some external rotation. Those are just some tools you can use. Now I'm gonna show you a thing that I would say a variation of this that I really, really love, and it actually kind of is segmental. So if you watch me from the side, this is kind of like a roll into a bridge. So the first thing I actually use this roller because it's a great example. The first thing that I would do with a client is make them think like we'll put a med ball in between their legs or some type of roller just to get them to squeeze and turn on adductors. Now, here's the thing, okay? Once I let this go, I still want that tension. So what I'll coach them on is like, all right, you're squeezing, now I'm gonna let go. They're still keeping that tension. From there, the first thing that they do is just that bottom back, like low back, is gonna roll off the ground, okay? So notice, like my upper back is still on the ground, my mid back is still on the ground. I'm just getting my lower back off the ground, and I'm still engaging those glutes. I'm still squeezing together, okay? From there, I'm gonna get that mid back off the ground. I'm gonna roll up a little bit more, turning those glutes on. From there, I'm gonna go almost all the way through, turn the glutes on even more, and finally, I'm gonna get even the upper back off and roll into that tension. And now squeeze fully, and then slowly come down the same way, where that upper back comes down first, mid back comes down second, and low back comes down third. And just the difference in the amount of tension I could feel in my glutes doing it segmentally like that is big. It's a really, really big difference. Obviously, you have to try it to kind of feel that and coach through. But remember, first, we kind of create some tension. If a person can't feel it, we'll give them something to squeeze, foam roller, med ball, something to create some tension there, and then start rolling up. Like I said, a lot of people don't know how to control, I would say, their spine well. And so these are deloaded movements, but seriously, like that second variation, every single time we do this, clients will say, holy crap, am I feeling my glutes? Way more on that other variation. Because most people, even with maybe an exhale, like, they tend to arch a little bit, can't find kind of like just their position of the pelvis, and this really helps out. So that's one that we do. Once again, we do maybe 2 to 3 rolls, hold that the top position for 5 to 10 seconds. They'd really get not only activation, but they'd get a pump on that. The second one that I'd like to show today is this wall iso, where we're gonna kind of, like, it's a hip hinge, and then we're gonna push that external rotation into the wall, and I'll show you guys how this looks like. Okay, so imagine first of all, I'm close to the wall, and I'm gonna go and hinge back into an RDL essentially, okay? And from here, I'm gonna get this foot back just in line with that other foot. But now I'm gonna push out into the wall and just do an iso hold. So I wanna make sure that this hip doesn't fly out. I'm driving, pushing out so my hips are aligned. I'm driving into that wall as hard as I can. And the thing is, you can kind of regulate from where you're at. You know, do you step out a little bit more and get a little bit more external rotation here? But make sure that this hip doesn't fall out. And I'm driving. Kicker is, you're gonna get this glute that's stabilizing and the other one that's externally rotating to get that activation, right? So that's a great drill. We can do anything from 10 seconds to 30 seconds on these. I like to, for most people, be more like a 10-second, pause, reset, come back down and do it again, and do 2-3 rounds of that. Number 3, this is like a really feel-good, it's like it takes the lats out of it a little bit too. And this is where we start kind of going into that hinge position. It's a banded lat stretch into pull. So what's cool about this, that I can pull myself back, and this is a really good, I mean, this is a stretch that we do off of TRXs a lot, right? What's happening here is the band's pulling me this way, right? And I'm pushing my hips back. So you get some of this kind of feeling of great stretch and decompression. So I'm still keeping good form here though, right? I don't want to round, I want to keep a neutral spine, pack chin, and I'm going to come through. Actually, I got to find my space here a little bit. There we go. Bam, and drive, right? So hips go back, put them on stretch, band's pulling me forward, pop through, squeeze. Great movement, like I said, another activator, nice and tall, squeezing the glutes, driving back. Because remember, whenever we get something on stretch, okay, the more on stretch we get it, the easier it is to activate. And obviously with this band, it allows me to take, I mean, right now lats are on stretch, which is great, but we're able to get those glutes on max stretch, and then as I drive through, I really get to activate, okay? So this one will be like a 12 to 15 rep one. I probably slowed it down a little bit too because it just feels great. And this is, once again, when you show this to clients or if you're doing it for yourself, you'll see like you kind of feel almost, it's not as good as a hang and decompression, but you definitely get like that feeling of decompression in that bottom position, which is great. From here, this is one I picked up from Brett Contreras. We use it as an activator. We'll also use it in glute circuits. If we're talking about getting a glute pump, and like I said, we talked about first, what? Release, mobilize, activate, and then possibly get a pump, depending on what we're trying to achieve. So here, you want to have some type of support, some type of rig, something to hold on to. And same thing, what we're going to do is we're going to go into a hinge position, right? So I'm going to hinge back into this position, and then I'm going to lift this leg up. So I'm feeling this glute stabilizing here. Now, first of all, what we want to do is not just externally rotate, we want to abduct, right? So not AD, but ABD, abduct, right? So it's going to be like this 45-degree angle that you'll see, because it just really makes everything kick in. Okay, so watch, I'm back in that position. I feel that glute on stretch, my right side. Now I'm going to rip open, but my hips, I want to keep my hips as neutral as I can, right? So I'm giving you guys the delight of some of this pump and burn that's going on right now. Whew. Right, so 12 to 15 reps. A lot of great things happening here, because guess what? This is actually the glute that feels it more. Even though you're working this too, like this is the one that's stabilizing, like kicking like crazy, okay? So same thing, this is a 10 to 15 rep kind of activator, and depending on what you're using it for, you know, how heavy the band goes, you can go and control the time under tension a little bit. So a lot of different stuff that you can do here. And I'm going to come back and do some clamshells and show some clamshell variations here. But first I'm going to go to this 3-way reach. Once again, you know, when you look at the glute, a lot of people, I like to have, I would say, a lot of movement variability and different planes that we're working in, because let's be honest, like the glutes work in a lot of different planes. So from here, when you know, we want to get that reach. So you want to step back and kind of find your way as far as like what's going to be a reach. But same thing, I'm going to go single leg, but I'm going to drive across now, try to touch, right? Come back up. Now this is also balance work. You guys may have seen me do this with some ankle work as well, reaching in front and then to the side, right? Because I have to drive that hip. I'm coming back up, across, front. And sometimes we'll band this as well, but usually if it's like if it's a beginner client, maybe even intermediate, you know, if you band it, it can start getting funky and wobbly, and we don't want that. So same thing, might go like 5 touches of each cone, switch legs, 5 touches of each cone. For also a great drill for anybody that has hypermobility, congenital laxity. We'll talk about that next time, but this is a great thing to put into warm-ups. From there, you know, clamshell is like as old as, I mean, the drill is really, I would say, been around for a while. I think a lot of people kind of mess it up somewhat. So we got 2 kind of clamshell variations here. This is still a good drill. Like I said, it has its place where you're gonna bend the knees, whether you put a roller here or not. You know, you kind of want to have that stability. You want to make sure that your hips are stacked. That's one of the big things that tends to happen is, you know, you'll see this rotation in your low back, right? So you want to make sure your hips are stacked and the abs are on, okay? Because we don't want compensation from the low back. The other thing I like is making sure that low back is neutral somewhat, right? And from here, like I said, I'm going to clamshell. This is variation 1. When I'm really going to open it up, make sure, I even like giving people some stuff to like rip apart to create some tension, right? So I'll make them focus on the band, I'll make them reach and push, so that way everything is coming from where we want it to, those external rotators, right? And you may not get as much range of motion as you think, okay? And I have pretty damn, I would say, wide variability in the hips, and this is about as far as I can get. This is a pretty decently tough band too, okay? So this is like our first variation. The second one here is where we just raise it, right? So literally we're gonna raise that whole foot up, and then we can actually even internally, externally rotate. There's a lot of ways that we can go with this, but we can raise the whole hip up, okay? Even though like this baseline one is the one that really we use the most and we teach the most, this is the one that I think anybody can kind of throw in there and make sure that people are getting that right activation. And since I have the band on, I'm gonna go and put lateral walks and monster walks in here too, because they are phenomenal. Same thing, sometimes we'll put these in our metabolic work. And I prefer to put them around the ankles, or should I say a little bit higher? See that band? There we go. Because that way you tend not to, I would say, cheat. There's some cheating that can happen the other way around. So we'll do a lot of band work, like band walks. And like I said, here we'll go someone to that hinge position, step, control. That's the key too. I want to make sure that this is the compensation you'll see here, right? Somebody will step. See what I just did there? Right? I'm kind of like bending. I'm not using my abs, so like I'm cheating my way out of this. Whereas if this is on, turned on, and I step, I control eccentrically. Step, control eccentrically, right? My butt's on fire. So this is activation mode, yeah. A lot of activation, right? After all those drills. So stepping, we'll go 10, 12 per side, and then we'll turn it around many times and go monster walks and kind of get that step out to the side. Same thing, control, step out to the side. Same thing, neutral spine, right? We want to make sure we're moving from the hips where we want to and then coming backwards. That 45-degree angle. And we can also go just backwards, obviously an extension. I always like to coach that control, right? So control, that eccentric portion. Okay, and same thing moving forward. But like I said, moving forward or backward after 45, I like it better. So that's a great drill to throw in. And once again, as you're watching this, you're like, man, that's a lot of activation drills. Like I said, you don't have to do all of them, right? You pick and choose. Honestly, like this is something I would rotate for somebody, right? So on their lower body days, if it's always a full body day, they're gonna do a couple, like 2, 3 of these drills, but then alternate them on different days. And last but not least, right? So let's say this is a deadlift day or squat day, whatever it may be, but we're trying to activate the glutes. I absolutely love the bell for this, but before they go into, let's say this was a trap bar deadlift, or we're doing sprints and things like that,
would use a bell and just drive. So I'd get into the deadlift position and we just coach the crap out of the deadlift, right? That perfect position. Teaching the hinge, even like I said, pushing out, getting that ribcage down. So breathe out, push out, hinge back, feel the whole foot, meaning I'm feeling the big toe, little toe right here, heel like it's a tripod. I'm feeling every part of the foot the same, right? I'm not on my heels and having my toes roll up. I'm grabbing the bell. You got to see the logo on my chest. This is great. I got the CPPS shirt from Jody and Smitty. So you can see that, right? I'm going to rip that bell apart. I'm creating tension into the ground. I'm ripping my clavicles apart. And now I'm going to pack my chin and push the ground away. As I get to the top, this is where we coach the activation. I'm going to make sure that person is ripping the bell apart. And I'm going to tell them, push the ground, keep pushing the ground, keep pushing the ground. Breathe out, push the ground, push the ground, push the ground. Right, we'll go 10, 15 seconds. Push down, come on. Drive, 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 drive. Right, and your glutes are going to be on fire. Right, for 10 seconds, bring it back down to the same spot. Reset, and we'll go maybe to 2 to 3 reps. Trust me, because that driving, having that perfect form, driving to the top, and then pushing your feet into the ground and pushing the world away, guess what? It's like being in a plank position, crushing that walnut, right, with your butt cheeks. And after you do that, like I said, we've released, we've mobilized, we've activated. Now imagine going to do the exercise that you're going to do. So for instance, whether it was a squat, whether it was a deadlift, but it's your lower body. Like things are going to be firing much better, right? We turned off some things that were too turned on, and we turned them off, and we turned on stuff that was dormant, right? So whether it's getting hip flexors first released and activated and stronger, you know, to getting core on point, to making sure the glutes are working and firing, right? Much better position. So the thing is, like this is a low back protocol, but guess what? Like if you have, you know, stuff going on, you're about to go on a training session, this will help, right? If you just want to feel better, this will help. If you want to get weak point stronger, right, this will help. So this is, and like I said, we're going to keep sharing a lot more of these. Some are going to be faster protocols, but this is one that you can literally go through, and when you take your clients through it, like if they don't feel a ton better, well, I mean, then they definitely need to go see a PT. I mean, obviously, like we're big on referring out. Like I said, Dan Swinsko goes in-house for us, but you know, even he's kind of been a part of, I would say, creating these protocols, because we run everything through and say, hey, listen, like this is what we're doing, and you know, people are just feeling so much better. So you can use this in group training, like larger group training. A lot of these you can use them in small group personal training, like the 8 to 14, 15 that we have, or obviously in semi-private training, one-on-one training, you know, customizing this to a person. So if they come in, you do an assessment, man, and it's like you're plugging this in and they're feeling a ton better. So make sure you put it to work, guys. Like I said, this is how you separate yourself by helping clients feel better, results in advance. You take somebody through this, they're bought in because they feel so much better. See you in that next video.